And to the bottom right.
Warp into game one.
What'd I say?
Oh.
Oh, we're good. In the bottom right, in the red. He doesn't have a team right now, but he is the odds-on favorite in the red. Coffee.
And on the top left, it is for Invictus Gaming XY.
And Cats, are you familiar with the XY fan club?
No, what's that about? Tell me.
XY, for whatever reason. And now, of course, Oliveira, he's got a ton of fans now in China. He's very, I mean, his name was literally on the side of buildings once he won Katowice. But before then, and even still, this player XY, this Terran, who's been around for a while, has been ebbing and flowing in terms of form. Well, he has this massive fan club in China. People love him. He has all these different, he actually plays in show matches quite often called the XY Fans show matches, where his fan club will donate a bunch of money and have him play Coffee's Off Race, or they'll have him play Koreans or different things. He just has this significant fan base of people that just think XY is pretty awesome. And I can't remember whether we have any players playing right now wearing the tag, but there was this, for the longest time, there was this clan tag on the, we're not playing on China, but there was this clan tag that a bunch of the Chinese players were on that was the XY Fans club. Like they were in, everyone was in the XY Fans clan. So he's got this cult following in China. And I don't know that that's going to be enough to allow him to win this series necessarily, but you know, I want a big fan club, you know, I'm not that cool.
Yeah, there used to be huge fan clubs back in the day. Haven't seen that much of that, but this SCV almost gets himself killed. Not gonna be the case, however, but yeah, I mean, he's gonna be pushed back all the way by the looks of it. And yeah, what would you like your fan club to be named? The BMO fan club? Elijah
you know,
Wood
the
fan club?
The B Only Fans?
The B Only fans. Nice.
That might be getting me into trouble. But anyways, as we talk about this TVT, Cats, we got Cyclones on the way. I don't think that's too surprising, even as they have been changed pretty significantly. There's still this solid early game, able to hold on to everything. But the question is, as we see Coffee to get a second one, where do you stop at? Because if one Cyclone's good, two must be better, right? Maybe go to three. Do you put pressure on with this? How have you been kind of experiencing or seeing this Nuvo TVT?
Well, I think right now, quite clearly what the players are doing is just getting the Cyclone for defense type thing. And I think that here is where Coffee getting the second Cyclone is kind of being extra safe, I would imagine, or has to put up some aggression. Otherwise, they have to fall off, right? Once tanks start hitting the field, then those are going to be dominant. So, yeah, exactly. I think Coffee should probably look for something, or he's being overly defensive, in which case I like XY's opening better because, yeah, he gets away with basically less base defense before taking out.
So we do see Coffee. He is getting ready for that aggression. In some way, shape, or form, he's got the medevac. It's a double Cyclone drop, which, hey, generally you would go with Marines in a drop early game, but Cyclones now, they're the mech Marine. So it makes sense. You run across the map. You look for what you can, because, of course, those of you that are not familiar with the changes, Cyclones are now cheaper. They don't have a lock-on cooldown anymore, so they just constantly lock on, do a little bit less damage on that lock-on, but they just have this incredible kiting potential, even more than they used to. So look at this. They're dodging lock-ons. Their Reapers won't go down. So at the end of the day, yeah. Coffee, he gets, I think it was like a single Marine, has to back up, but really nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? And in the natural, Reapers, they get another SCV or two. So, not bad. Not bad early.
No. This looked pretty good for XY for sure. He had perfect positioning to absorb the Cyclone pressure, and you can see why the Cyclone pressure makes sense as well now in the patch. Because there is instant lockdown, you don't have to wait, right? So that means you can actually medevac micro your Cyclones up and then drop them back down and instant lockdown again. Whereas before, if you interrupted the lockdown to try to micro with a medevac, that would be really bad. So this, I can see how this makes a lot of sense and how the meta has seemingly been progressing to where both players are aware of this option, and XY was perfectly ready for it. Exactly the units that he needed to defend 2 Cyclones and almost nothing else. So, so yeah, looks good for him now, and planning to move out, it looks like.
Yeah, we see Coffee being a lot greedier here. His third base a little bit faster. His extra barracks a little bit faster. Stim a little bit faster. That means he's committed to a lot of things that will help him in a minute from now, 45 seconds from now, but not right now. So if XY can hit this timing before Coffee is fully ready, well, that's going to be a pretty powerful idea. But for now, Coffee's just looking to force him back. The 2 Cyclones and the medevac certainly will delay the third base, and where SCVs are going to have to get pulled. Dives on top of the tank before it's ready. They get the tank as well, and now infinite damage. SCVs die so quickly. But XY on the other side here drops the auto turret, shuts down the tank. Can he break it through, Cats? Is this enough? Can he kill him right now?
He does have a lot. I don't like that he unsieged the tank on the other side, but the siege here is very nice. So he's going to get himself a very powerful position at the natural. It's going to be Coffee forced to evacuate this natural, and yeah, he will. He has to lift up that CC, both of them in fact, and with that, XY gets a beautiful position. I think the medevac also got pulled back as we see that giant square on the minimap, one of the better changes of the patch, no doubt. Trying to look for an angle with the Cyclones here to draw some fire and maybe micro the Cyclones back, but it's not going to pan out, and I think XY has done it here.
Yeah, seems like he's maybe just got a better read on how new TVT works. It's just like old TVT. Cyclones are in fact a bait. We saw the drop there, and 3 tanks annihilated them instantly. No opportunity in Coffee. I think to the surprise a lot of people in this setup, he goes down 1.
Yeah, very well played by XY. I was very impressed in particular with how well adapted he was for the double Cyclone drop. So it really shows that while they haven't played many officials, it's very likely that even either the meta has been developing in Korea and Asia towards this type of double Cyclone aggression on medevacs, or he just knows his opponent well enough that that's what he was expecting of whatever he saw in the early game, which I don't think was very much. So beautifully done for XY. Great preparation by the looks of it, and pays off.
Yeah, exactly. So now we look at that, and also we saw Coffee behind that aggression, behind the whole. I think the entire point, or a good point of the Cyclone aggression is as early aggression often is wow, I'm being aggressive. That means you can't attack me, which means I can be greedy behind that. But because it didn't get a lot of damage done, that meant that the immediate attack on the other side of the map, why not? Because Coffee, he would have been in an incredible position. You give him maybe 60 more seconds, maybe even 30 more seconds, right? He'll have Stim. He'll have those 2 additional barracks on the production. He'll have all this other stuff. And if you make that happen, then you're good. Then you're fine. Therefore, you survive. But XY just hit the perfect timing. That's really all you need to do sometimes.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it as well, because 1 sec, let me join the lobby. Because it turns out that, like, basically you have to start your transition before you know how the previous action is going to go, right? It's so it looks greedy when we see the state of things and we see, like, oh my god, there's like no units and you're going for a 3rd CC, but really you had to start that transition. You had to start that planning with the Cyclone drop in mind to keep your opponent back. And it just wasn't able to. It got completely shut down so fast. And, you know, the lifeline for the Cyclone drop and how much you can do on the other side is the HP of the medevac and the HP of the Cyclones. They should effectively never die, but the faster you take damage on them, the faster you have to evacuate and leave your opponent's side of the map. And this time around, that was a very quick happening. So
yeah, I think the key thing we talk about the defense was that he was able to get the lock on with his own Cyclone. He had 1, his opponent had 2, but he took half damage on the medevac. And, you know, realistically, you can soak a lot of damage on your ground unit so long as the medevac's there and you can micro around. And I think Coffee would have been very happy to continue to do what he was doing. But because the medevac got low, he had to back up. He had to run away. He couldn't drop in later. And that bought so much room for XY to run across the map. So
yeah, I mean, both Cyclones were below half HP, I believe. That's why they got 1 shot on the other side as well when they tried to drop to micro against the tank fire. Like the 3 tanks.
Well, 2 tanks, 1 shot a Cyclone anyways, and he brought the Cyclones back and repaired them. That was their second attempt out. So
Okay.
I think they took some damage from the SCVs, but yeah, no, he brought it back. He brought everything back home. He mass repaired the medevac and the cyclones.
Got it.
So didn't work out regardless, and now that means that the underdog, the guy who has not won against XY since I think it was what was it? It was has not beaten Coffee since 2021. Well, we're gonna have to see if he can do it because Cats, our game 2, it's very ready. It's here.
Very ready.
In fact, its middle name might be Freddy, but in the bottom left, his middle name is not Freddy. I don't know what it is. I do know he goes by Coffee.
And then top right hand side, his opponent for Invictus Gaming. It is leading the series 1-0 XY. I also don't know what his name is.
Well, it starts with an X and ends with a Y. Cats.
Or is it X? Does it end with a Y?
I don't know.
I feel like the Y is probably a middle point of some kind.
Well, you know, on the path
Like
of
a middle name.
XYZ, on the path towards the end.
True. That must be what it is. Both players opening pretty similarly here. There's going to be an earlier SCV scout from the side of Coffee. So we'll see if that yields any results. As on the other side, there will be double gas to be found. Both players opening the standard double gas here.
Yeah, this build that it's funny as we talk about TVT. It's kind of funny watching how the meta ebbs and flows. So for a while now, this barracks, double gas, factory type of idea has been something that has been very, very popular. It's kind of a solution to a lot of the aggressive options. It allows you to be aggressive against the defensive options. It works out pretty well overall. But going into Katowice and kind of after that patch and moving on a little bit, it felt like TVT opened up quite a bit. And we started seeing Reaper expands, and we started seeing gas firsts, and we started seeing all of these different things. And I don't know whether it's too early to tell really where the meta is going to settle here on this newer patch. We know that maybe we're going to see some more cyclones. But it is interesting that, at least in the meantime, as people try to figure things out, it has kind of defaulted.
He's abusing. There's abuse. Perfectly positioned Reaper on the side of XY. This is a problem with this map. In fact, if we look back at the Reaper in the middle of the map, he's standing in a square that is in range of activating the tower, which means that your opponent can't take or activate the tower. It just deactivates, which makes this, because it's in the fog of war of these little doodad thingies, it makes the Reaper invisible. So it's effectively an impossible path blocker unless you go from the other side. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you just
see? It can't be attacked. It can't be attacked. Yeah. I was watching Yapilipili and he ran into this problem yesterday.
Oh, that's disgusting. I love that so much. I mean, one of the things, Cats, I think you and I were both pretty excited about when they moved to the 9-map pool is that you not only are we going to see different matches, different map setups for different series and different matchups, different racial matchups and things. Oh no, IXY runs up the ramp there. He's going to lose at least one, maybe two. But the other thing, as the cyclone there in the middle is gonna again be abusive as hell.
Okay.
Is that players can practice on maps, can figure things out for maps in a bit more specific way, because as you get maybe on 9 maps, players are gonna play some maps more than others, and you can start to see some specific player map set specific combinations that give us things like this, where okay, maybe someone figures something out a little bit earlier, and then you get to abuse it for a week, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, or abuse it for a while, right? Like this, I think needs to get changed. I think that's completely unintended, and it's too important of an area and like the complete middle of the map with a watchtower to give up to one unit, right? Like that's just not a fair power struggle for the player that's coming into that position. So yeah, I mean, with a medevac here, that'll make things a little bit easier. Finally, some vision, so the Cyclone will actually be displaced.
Yeah, certainly. So XY though, he did delay the refinery just a little bit, got that SCV there, but this pressure coming on, it's a lot of damage on the Cyclone early on just from the Reapers. So Coffee clears the way, and let's see what he's going to be able to get with the drop this time. Last time, he didn't get a lot. This time, I don't think he gets a lot either. The tank's there. It's already sieged. Yeah. No way are you going to get anything, but now, yeah, absolutely not. Coffee, no room to get any damage.
No room to get any damage whatsoever. That was actually a great defense once again. And we're going to have interference matrix, I believe, being researched as well from both players, but XY a little bit quicker to it. No second Raven just yet, though, so maybe wants to wait for that one to move out. But yeah, great defense again.
Yeah, and the best part about that one as well, it was a passive defense. He didn't have to do much, just the tanks were there. You're able to soak for the most part, which meant that he could scout around the main base, put the Reaper in the main. I don't think he got, maybe he got a second SCV, I'm not sure. But he didn't get a lot, but it certainly did distract Coffee a little bit. It did make that a little bit harder for him. And now?
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, it's a CC on location for both players. I think from Coffee, this has to be feel a little bit riskier given how the last game went, right? Your opponent just did a 2-base push and you died. So I like it from XY because he kind of is showing something similar to last game conceptually. So he could be going for that double base, and that would put him ahead if, you know, if Coffee wasn't taking a risk effectively and saying, I don't believe you, I don't think you're going for 2-base, or rather maybe I have enough of an army that I feel confident with the early game and I'm willing to also expand on location.
Yeah, we did see XY take that third base last time. He took it a little bit slower than Coffee did, and that was what allowed him to make that aggression happen. But it seems like we're not quite getting that this time. It's certainly something XY could do, but look at this catch here.
Oh! Interferences, matrices right away. Beautifully done for XY. He had to mine one of those little mineral patches to be ready for this, and he really knows his opponent well, it seems like.
Yeah, we talked going into this. We asked in the last series about how much prep SCV maybe had, how well he was prepared for that, given... Oh, he's going to see... Yeah, no, you do not push through the middle right there. But how much prep there was, because again, they're 1-0. The games were played over the last 2 days. You don't have a ton of prep time. Man, XY is just... If you were playing that on ladder, you'd be screaming map hacks. Because why in the world was something there? But XY knows how Coffee likes to play. He preemptively mines things out. He gets the medevac. And yeah, Coffee owns the middle of the map here. He has this broken Zelnaga tower. But XY, for the trades that he has, he's up 20 army supply. He's got his third base up, well situated. Sim's a little slower, but 1-1, a little bit slower as well. But again, the economy is just booming here. XY is just in such a solid spot, Cats. I can't get over it. Like, given their history and how rarely XY beats Coffee in a TVT, I can't get over how well situated XY is.
Yeah, really beautifully done. And I mean, he added an additional 2 barracks as well, so I imagine he will be looking to push here pretty soon. If he wasn't looking to push, I would have loved for him to just take a 4th right after picking off that medevac, kind of go a little bit of the SCV approach, maybe not as extreme. But yeah, I mean, if he just kind of sits back, then the game will equalize and will start evening out. Okay, there's the 4th base on location as well, so I like that.
Yeah, certainly. And also, I don't know that he necessarily knows the exact timings of 1-1 versus 1-1. Oh, this tank line.
Yeah.
You're not attacking it. No, you're not attacking into this. It's not allowed. But yeah, so the upgrade timings, I don't know that he's necessarily going to know that he is exactly 15 seconds or whatever it is behind Coffee's 1-1. But realistically, pushing into a Terran on Alcyone, it's not easy. We can see it just how hard it is by XY setup. So went ahead, yeah, get more ahead, take that 4th base, add all your sensor towers, do what you can. Maybe try to put some drop pressure on. This is 16 Marines on the left side. 1-1's going to be done soon. There's only 1 missile turret here. He's got room for some damage.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see if he can find it here. There's nothing really going on otherwise. Like, he's not using this to move out on the map or do any sort of push. He did spot the potential of Coffee to take a 4th, I believe, as there was an altercation there. Very quick reaction, however, for Coffee. He has enough Marines here, so goes into the main instead. XY does. And let's see if he can find anything. All the Vikings are here, however, so those medevacs are going to be doomed. The Marines just have to stand their ground and see what they can get done. 3 SCVs go down and not much more. At least he knows where his opponent's army is, and he knows that he has a faster 4th. But yeah, like I said, I mean, despite a very nice early game, this passive sort of play hasn't translated into a massive lead of any kind for XY.
No, not really. And also his 2-2 upgrades. He's got an armory. We can clearly see that he's got an armory. +1 mech attack is on the way. He has forgotten his 2-2. for quite a bit here. Although I like this, the drop from earlier on that denied the drop of Coffee. It's going to get 4 SCVs. It's going to get that scout off. It knows the timing that Coffee's taking this 4th base. And that's actually going to be pretty nice, especially with this random Marine run by. It's getting ready for the time whenever this base gets knocked down. Yeah, he doesn't have 2-2. Yeah, they don't shred Command Center quite as quickly, but there's still some opportunity here. So he's going to stim on top. How much? There's no way, right? Not with the Marines rallying yet. No, absolutely not. XY, nice idea. Execution, not quite there.
Yeah, I mean, he stimmed too early, and then he thought, okay, my Marines are stimmed. I might as well run forward and see what I can find. But that ends up netting him another stim worth of HP, because you have to stim to retreat. It's going to run out at some point, right? So I think his mistake was to stim for the first couple of units, maybe just overestimated the amount of units that there could be, or not seeing up the ramp made him think that his opponent could have a little bit more ready to attack. But yeah, kind of baited himself with that stim.
Yeah, just a little bit, but he's got a 5th base on the way now. He's got a 6th base on the way. 5th base already on. Yeah, you talked about wanting to see XY do the same thing that we saw SCV do. He's doing it right now. It's a little slower, and he will lose this north side base. In fact, I think this, at this point, this is just going to burn down. It's dead. No saving it. But he's got a gold base on the way. He's already got that 5th base. So this action, the fact that he lost that base might be an incredible boon for him. Paradoxically, because Coffee's gonna say, oh, you tried to take your 5th base, it didn't work, sorry about that, I'm good now, we're equal on bases, I don't need to go check elsewhere. Who in the world triple expands against the Terran in a TVT? It doesn't happen. So
yeah, for sure.
Why would Coffee go check this bottom side? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, he knows that the minerals were mined earlier in the incident that you mentioned, like were you know, you would think that if it was the latter, it was hacking. And yeah, I agree. Like when stuff like that happens, it's wild for the earlier drop. But obviously here he had to have mined the minerals preemptively, which, you know, like in some sense would confirm to your opponent, wow, like you really just read me like well in advance. But in this situation, it also opens up that area of the map where the bases are being taken. So Coffee has to be aware of that to some degree.
Oh, he's not going to get the scout off. He's sending these Marines, but there are tanks right there. So that's not even that big of a tell, realistically. You know, like, why would... That just means that he's trying to establish a forward position. Doesn't mean that the gold base is taken. Doesn't mean that the right side base is taken, as, again, north side gets canceled here. But look at this Brood War line that XY has set up. The missile turrets, this line of tanks. Now, Coffee, similarly, massively... That is so many tanks right there.
That is certainly a lot of tanks. He likes his tank lines, and a lot of Marines here on the other side. No medevacs to aid him. A Liberator on the other side tries to do something. Okay, these Marines just have to pick up one of the 2 fights. They are going to lose their lives in the process, and good cleanup for Coffee. However, Marines not that important at this stage.
Nah, you can rebuild them fairly quickly. It's all about the tanks, but you need the Marines to buffer here.
Don't want to go into that.
Coffee goes for the break, Cats. It doesn't seem useful, but... Yeah, no way, right? You can't you can't do this. Not easily.
Yeah. No, definitely not. I mean, XY has done such a great job through and through this game to just establish this tank lines that look beautiful, and you know, they are highly effective, because when you establish a line like this, what it means is that all of your tanks are going to fire at the same time, versus, you know, more staggered tanks over a little bit more depth of field. So it's really a lot of DPS that you're running into, and we saw it there reflected in the supply. In the air as well, XY has the advantage, so we'll see if he continues to try to press it. But things are looking pretty dire for Coffee here in the middle of the map.
Yeah, it's pretty cool as well. We look at this. XY really committing to his mech attacks. He's got +2 mech done, +2 tanks done, +1 armor. So both the tanks and the Vikings and the Ravens, they all take a little bit less damage. Yeah, Coffee's got his 3-3 done, or just about. Marine, the armor's done, armor's just about done, attack is done. But XY is transitioning into mech. He doesn't care about the bio upgrades anymore. That's just a transitionary phase as he gets more tanks, more Ravens, more Vikings, more starports here, moving truly into the late game, which is pretty cool. Now, Coffee does have a couple Marines on the right side as he's looking for this surround here, but there's vision. So this one tank might fall. In fact, it will go down. That should be the majority of it. Coffee's not going to be able to pair up the Marine distraction with a full frontal attack. But at the very least, Coffee's economy, it's It's great. Yes, this gold base has been taken by XY, but he's not mining a ton out of it. Coffee's been able to take the north side base, the rich gas base. He really has this setup now where he should be able to take kind of the rest of the maps available to him as XY slows down. But I mean, you know, the other thing, Cass, we got to talk about, look how many sensor turrets on the map.
Break those rocks. Yeah, this map is insane right now. I mean, it's part of just how easy to divide the map is, especially with the middle of the map as well, having that very nice tower for vision, and then just all the lines on the high grounds leading to the other side, to your opponent's side, makes this kind of like macro TVT paradise in some sense, and we're seeing it here.
That we are, but the Raven, oh man, the anti-armor missile so strong here, so solid in this setup, and it will force XY back from that siege. Remember, most of his tanks are on the bottom side defending against this rather paltry tank line, realistically, coming out of Coffee, which means that, yeah, he had all the Vikings in the air, but he could not break this position. So a little bit of a negative trade, not the best right there as we look at resources lost. Still pretty heavily in XY's favor. But really, okay, I was going to ask Cats, at what point do we move into Liberator play? But XY, he's just skipping that. Yamato cannon on the way. Battle cruiser tech on the way from XY. Eventually, he's going to move on to high ground here. Anti-armor missile hits a little bit faster, a little bit better. And those auto turrets, they kill everything. So you don't get a gold base here, Coffee. Not yet. Not for a while. The tank line, well, it's just going to move forward.
Yeah, gotta be a little bit careful. I'm not sure that you can take that fight with anti-armor missile on you still. The missile goes down on XY as well, but the fight has already been kind of won in the air, and these are good trades for XY. Even if they're kind of even right now, he has been dominating the game through and through, so he has had, you know, better access, faster access to economy. He has developed a few more command centers that are going to be dropping mules and whatnot, so it's looking pretty good for a 2-0, which is kind of wild. I like his chances at least. Obviously, both players are maxed out. Obviously, there's going to be that battle cruiser transition where he's going to skip a step, Coffee. But yeah, things are looking pretty good for the underdog.
That there, I would love to go as a tank trade positive for XY right there, just better vision. I'm curious at what point he starts actually building the battle cruisers. He's got Yamato cannon just about done. He's got +2 air attack, +3 armor on the way. But we don't see any battle cruisers on the way just yet. He's just building 7 Vikings at a time, which is that's a lot of Vikings, right? That is a significant amount of production that you're bringing to the fray. And now Coffee tries to join the fight right here, thinks he's got maybe a pickoff on one of the tanks, and he does. The Viking lead, though, you know, despite building 7 Vikings at a time, it's not that significant, but the armor shredder missile here hits a little bit faster. One more volley, Marines beneath as well. XY is going to win this fight pretty handily. At least he should. Is he?
Yeah, he
no,
should.
the shutdown here, he's going to lose it despite everything on the ground and the Viking lead. Coffee wins the fight.
All right, that's Coffee. Yeah, for sure. And I think that this is where you start pushing the gas pedal onto the battle cruisers. If I were him, at least that's what I would do. He has the setup, right? He has 3 starports, I believe, with the tech lab ready. Instead, he's gonna use it to make some liberators, and there is battle cruiser first, actually on the side of XY, which is a little bit wild, considering he just lost that air altercation. I feel like when you win with the Vikings and you have the air control, that's kind of like your go move. But still, look at the map, right? It's still very much in favor of XY. It looks really, really good for him. Only at 68 workers as well, which means this army has a little bit more room to grow than Coffee's does. But his economy is still going to be better because he has those extra command centers.
Yeah, and big deal as well here. He's trying to take a base out of Coffee. If he can hold this base from Coffee, it's such a big deal, because again, that's a base that his opponent won't have. It's this idea of late game ZVT where you want to steal a base from your opponent because they will trade better overall. But I think realistically, XY has the better trading army. It's mech. It's better mech upgrades. He's moving on to battle cruisers a little bit. He's got this very heavy Viking count. It's this tremendously heavy Viking count. So theoretically, if he can take the base, and it seems like he's actually just going to back up, doesn't think he can take that right now, that's the big deal. Now, on the flip side, Coffee wants to try to take this base from his opponent. That's not going to happen. He got high ground tanks. So the map's still split here. Coffee, he doesn't have the base on the bottom right. His opponent doesn't have the base on the upper left, although that's trying to happen. but a single... Oh, okay. No, never mind. XY actually canceled the battle cruiser. So we're not moving to that next stage. Not yet.
Yeah. And I felt like it would have been Coffee that moves into that stage a little bit quicker, but it's not happening yet. Coffee does have a lot of bio upgrades, but like you said, in mech upgrades, he's lagging a little bit behind. So so XY already getting 3-3 for mech, looking pretty good, as he's going to find himself a good position here behind this mineral line as well. 3 of the tanks are all going to be disabled on the side of Coffee, and this command center is going to have to be evacuated as well. So another positional victory here for XY.
Yeah, nice little snipe right there. But now the Ravens are going to join the fray.
Okay.
And he's going to lose so many more tanks than he just got. Maybe he can win the air battle, though, as these Vikings of Coffee, even if their number was higher, even if the shutdowns were good, they're all very low. They haven't been repaired in a while. So now we're going to see the Liberators. They just die. Ravens run forward here. But this is such a good fight for XY right now. Between the anti-armor missiles, between just the HP advantage that he has, the upgrades that he has. He shreds that air army of Coffee. Coffee has to give this situation up. And now this orbital is dead. It wasn't lifted. It can't lift. There's no way. So the Viking lead leads to a dead base. Nice trades there coming out of XY. And on the north side, he's got his base. He's mining out of it. Maybe it's a little wounded. That's fine. He's got pressure on the other side. A couple random tanks here moving forward to the missile turrets as well. XY, I know we've been saying it all game, but his positional play in this matchup is just... He's Picasso. The map's his brush. This is a beautiful positional display.
Yeah, he has been doing wonderfully, and he continues to do so as well. Little by little, he's been leaping and continuing to make these lines of tanks that are always just this like very nice sharp straight lines where, you know, any units that come into range are gonna get fired at by multiple tanks right away. So as little heads up as possible to your opponent to try to readjust. And yeah, I was kind of curious as to why Coffee was adding Liberators. He must be so confused right now, and now he's kind of doubling down on that, on winning an air fight, but it's not happening. I mean, it's 27 Vikings to 46, right? So he keeps thinking this must be enough, and he thinks he passes a threshold after winning the one air fight that he won, where he can go into Liberators. But it was not the case, because the production and the money and the economy for XY has just been insane. And with these little tank lines and you know, this positional play, he's allowed himself basically to just continue to mass up air, to dominate on the air, because he's holding the ground with relatively little, right? Here and there, like one tank here and there, like 5 tanks in a line type thing, and it's effective.
Yeah, the one downside is his Raven count is not as high as Coffee. Coffee's on 6 Ravens right now. XY only has 3 in that. I mean, we saw in that one air fight, even if you have the even if you're down in Vikings, having that Raven lead, shutting down so many of the Ravens of XY, it really can make a difference. So maybe that's going to be the secret sauce. Maybe it's the Marines on the ground that have 3-3, but XY, look at this. It's not a Viking flower anymore. It's a Viking concave, which seems odd, right? You don't talk about air units and concaving things, but in this game, well, you can't help it. When you got 46 Vikings, you can't help but make that concave happen.
Yeah, and I mean, he's gonna scan and he's gonna say, wow, you really have a lot more air than me. XY does, right? Like, and you have so many tanks if you're Coffee, but with this air superiority, like, the tanks are not gonna be super effective, I feel like, because it's so difficult to walk in and siege tanks into siege tanks, even in smaller numbers, right? So it really is all about these Ravens, but there isn't a squad that punches through and can actually win the game very easily, like Marines potentially could, even though it sounds silly because we're in a 24-minute maxed out split map TBT. But I agree with you, the Marines might be the way, but it is going to be the unsieged tanks actually, as XY gets caught completely off position as far as his air army is concerned. That should have never happened. That shouldn't happen, because you have the greater numbers on the air. So you know, you cannot be exposing your very few tanks to those interferences matrices for free, right? Like, you have to answer back and kill the air whenever that's going on.
I mean, I think XY is kind of okay with this losing the supplies. Like, that's fine. I'll build battle cruisers. I'll build more Vikings. I don't need the tanks on the ground. Your auto turrets, they get spammed, and this will force the Vikings back a little bit. So 42 Vikings to 31, but a bunch shut down here. This is a fight that XY very much should be able to win, but we're gonna have to see, because it's just gonna sit here pot shots for a while. Battle cruisers not done, but once they're done, we should see them teleport right on top of this army, end this fight, And that will allow Coffee to back up just a little bit. XY doesn't want to take the fight right now. More Vikings join the fray, 6 at a time. Where are the battle cruisers here? That's the question here, Cats. Where are they?
They should teleport on top of the tanks. I completely agree. Just attack, move. If you're XY, you have scan, so you can see exactly what we can't see this time around. There's no excuse there. You just teleport those battle cruisers in, but maybe he wants to, you know, he just walks them in just to have the teleport available after. But you gotta go. You just showed your first 3 battle cruisers, so your opponent's gonna be preparing 4 battle cruisers now. I don't like this from XY. I feel like he, you know, you can take five tanks for free. Just take them.
I mean, let's be real though. The answer to battle cruisers is more Vikings. I guess a Viking lead, but XY, despite on top of these battle cruisers, he's got 47 Vikings. He's just about doubling up the Viking count anyways. It's not like it's gonna be. No. What are you doing? He's gonna teleport away.
What is he doing? Yeah, but he had been spotted like moving down there, right? Like he had been scanned like twice. So instead of revealing his battle cruisers to take 5 tanks for free and complete map control, he goes for that little maneuver, and that's not gonna pan out too well. Now his opponent added, you know, saw the battle cruisers, 4 starports were added. So yeah, the counter is more Vikings, but now you can start making them. So I just don't like the surprise going to waste, basically.
Yeah, now the Marines here. I mean, Marines are horrible. I don't know why his battle cruisers are running away from the Marines. Yeah, they're 3-3. The battle cruisers are also 3-3. Marines are horrible against battle cruisers. They do not kill them quickly at all. But now they're gonna have to chase that down. And I mean, Cats, you're right. 5, I think it was 5 more star. How many starports are we at? It is we're looking at 10 starports from Coffee. Yeah, okay, fine. Does it make a difference when it's 54 Vikings to 28 and Coffee's maxed out? Building the Viking count required to win this game for Coffee right now, just based on the supply available, is really hard, despite everything else. So teleporting. Oh, I like this though. There we go. You bait the army north side, and then you teleport on top of the tanks. It's a little late. Okay. Judgment delayed is judgment deferred here, but XY still, he's gonna knock these tanks down. He's gonna have this heavy pressure on the base, and finally, maybe shut down this mining out of Coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. If he wants to take this fight, especially, a lot of interference matrices, however, for Coffee, and I think no Ravens on the other side, actually, not at all. 1 in production right now. You have to at least be able to anti-armor missile for the huge fight that seems inevitable, but Coffee kind of gets a little bit of a break. I mean, he has effectively split the map in half, so that's really nice for him, and now his army is looking pretty scary, especially with the Ravens. So for the first time in this game, I feel like we're at a split where I'm not so sure that XY has it in the bag anymore.
Yeah, this is such an interesting game, right? XY, it really has felt as nice Viking sally forth there. It felt for the longest time like XY, just with his massive flower of Vikings. I mean, look at this. There are so many. But you have 61. That timing, right? With the battle cruise, if he had teleported on top of that army, he wins the game. No doubt in my mind, he sweeps everything up. He kills the tanks, he kills the Vikings, kills the Ravens. He starts to sweep bases from Coffee. He has the momentum, he hits the game. But because he hasn't, this Raven count, these 11 Ravens that Coffee has, they might very well make up for the 20 Viking the 20 Viking deficit, the 5 battle cruiser deficit. And when that happens, I mean, it's not like XY can build another army. He's only on 28 SCVs. He's got a bunch of gas, not a ton of minerals. He can rebuild parts of his army, not the entire thing.
Yeah, this game is wild. This PF as well under fire alongside the CC that could be lifted is not going to be paid attention to right now. There's other things going on in the middle of the map, and actually a good start to the engagement of XY, who has all of his Vikings together, whereas on the other side that's not the case. Battle cruisers now clearing a couple of turrets here and there, and the Air Force is massive here for XY.
Yeah, 68 Vikings, 5 battle cruisers, a couple Ravens. This base is dead, so he's gonna eventually lose the north side, but I think he's gonna get 2 here on the other side. Wait, does he have Oh, interesting. No transformation servos. So this ability, he could just land on top of the planetary, instantly kill it with his Vikings, move again. He doesn't have that option. It does take a second to transform. It does take a second to move up, move down, move around. So he's not going to be able to shoot this base down quite as quickly as he would like. It's going to be a slow push. and he has lost the north side base. More importantly, Coffee is taking in the north side base from him. We talked about this earlier, Kat. If Coffee can do this, if he can maintain this, that is realistically, that might be enough to win the game right there.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Coffee is broke as a joke right now. On the other side, XY has a little bit of a bank, but he did lose his one Raven that had a lot of energy as well to turrets, which means no anti-armor missile for the next fight. There's 2 Ravens that just popped up on the side of XY, but they're you know, pretty low on energy right now, so he still has to be a little bit cautious here. And I'm not sure on the side of Coffee what he should be doing. I almost want to see Thors, to be honest. There's so many Vikings that, you know, the splash damage of Thors, I think, would be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I buy that one. But now, big concave here. This is the fight. We're going to have to see whether XY has enough. Look at the supply drop with the shutdowns of the anti-armor missiles. The Marines behind.
Okay.
Well, the battle cruisers, they're all dead. Yeah, XY's got to back up here. He shreds the air army of Coffee. It's 11 Vikings now to 50. But this Marine's on the ground. Cats, one of the important things when we talk about StarCraft, yeah, you can win the air battle all you want, but if you can't kill what's on the ground, does it matter?
For sure, it does matter in this instance, right? That was a massive victory in the air. But yeah, and gets a couple of tanks as well. But what he needs to do is add some non-Viking units and try to make something happen, because he did win a very decisive engagement there in the air, and that is massive, right? Like, that's actually a huge deal right now. The map is drying out effectively. It's basically dried out. There's like one working base for each player, and XY hasn't even taken his right now. So
look at these mule hammers, Cats. We're seeing 3,000 minerals, 4,000 minerals off of 1 mineral patch for each side. Like, that is
CC next to CC.
That is the power of industry right there. But the big thing, actually, that I want to point out, you talk about moving on to having stuff on the ground, doing something out of this. Well, you can build stuff on the ground, or you can just get transformation servos, and you can turn your Vikings into ground units once you win the air battle. I was hoping XY would have gotten this 10 minutes ago. But he's got it now, and now he knocks the north side base out. He, once again, is mining from this base, this rich gas base, and again, gas just as important, if not more important, than really the mineral count here. So, well, we talk about him retaking it. He's going to lose it once again. Coffee, this much more ground-focused army. He has the tank count again. He has these Marines. Just, he's not willing to fight the air. It's not worth it. So he's just not going to. And what does XY do here? He's slow on the response.
Yeah, I mean, for him, I think it's going to be about the tanks to anchor on the low ground, and then just the air fleet to try to give him vision to continuously just slowly siege. Right now, there's not any tanks here, so he doesn't even have to siege. He can just continue to move on a little bit closer to the base and make sure that he can siege the CC itself. So yeah, this is kind of XY's game plan, right? Like, he has to do this. Even landing a few Vikings, you can do that for sure, and now you have smart circles, like you said. Like, you don't really want to do that, because on the ground you lose a lot of value out of those Vikings, right? Like, they're not really gonna pay for themselves, but you need the buffer. And here comes a massive army from Coffee on the ground that is completely uncontested. The Vikings have to run away from the Marines. The battle cruisers are now here, and those guys can take care of the Marines, but no doubt Coffee will be looking to shut them down with his own set of Vikings before they can. Planetary Fortress, gotta be really careful with that one. You really can't afford to lose even Marines at this point. I wouldn't mind medevacs on the side of Coffee. What you think?
I think the medevacs might just die. Well, I was gonna say, I think the medevacs die too quickly, but with this heavy Viking count of Coffee, they can buffer for it. They can find some room. They can make some space. Coffee blocked. Coffee's blocking the base with a missile turret and dropping his own mules on top with vision, so he can just.
I love it.
I don't even, like, he's just taking money, regardless of whether these actually return home, and they're not going to mine efficiently, but they're just denying money from XY, who's trying to get as much money out of this last mining base as possible. Although he does have the right side, just a little bit. This is late game. This is where things have gotten crazy for Wildcats, but this is wild here. A missile turret to block a base, you can't lift it because the missile turret does a little bit of damage, but now we're going to see all these mules go down. This orbital is dead, but maybe he can sweep on top. He gets the tanks. Well, actually, he's got to get the Marines. This is such a hard army to fight if you're XY. Yeah, you in the air, but the ground is a problem. Stimming on top. Marines coming on in as well here. This might be the final fight of this game. The Marines are starting to go down. The battle cruisers reigning supreme. Coffee doing what he can. He loses this fight. It's not enough. And now
this
with the Vikings dominant in the air here, the tanks will fall. Coffee, there's nothing left.
Yeah, incredibly, it's those battle cruisers that pay off for themselves in spades against the Marines. Imagine some interference matrices, which we had so many of last time around. Battle cruisers do scan, see that there's no turrets inside, and are gonna start just working away at this base. And that's wonderful because it's the last base that he has to shut down. This looks now very, very good for XY.
Yeah, somehow, despite everything, the base doesn't die. Building armor is a powerful thing. And Marines, we talked about how they're not great against battle cruisers. Well, if you can catch one of them when it's on 25% HP, you can still kill it off. So XY, he tried to get a little too greedy there, trying to deny this last mining base before his army could really move on over. And that gave Coffee another window. He's down 50 army supply. He's down 31 Vikings to 1, but if you can build the Marines, and as this game goes late, you will go back to those Marine counts. You won't have the gas, you will have the minerals. It becomes really hard for XY to win that fight because, again, the Vikings, they have to land to shoot Marines, and that's time lost. It's awkward. You don't want to land those onto tanks. The tanks will explode them. It's a little.
Yeah, and again, for cost, they're not gonna pay for themselves fighting Marines on the ground either, right? So it's really about. I think he needs to repair his battle cruisers first and foremost. He has very low gas, but using it to repair the battle cruisers would probably be ideal. And the problem now for XY is he has to swap onto Marines of his own. Adding some Hellions, I think, is a decent idea as well, because his Marines are also gonna be lagging behind 2 upgrades. So, I mean, this game is just insane. With now Coffee adding tanks and you know, like the resources existing as they are, 0 gas now for XY. So there's not going to be tanks on his side. I don't know how this game ends, to be honest.
There is literally one gas geyser that XY could theoretically mine from. It has 18 gas in it. Currently, Coffee has a refinery on it. There is no gas on the map. Absolutely 0 gas on the map that XY can mine. So yeah, you're right. I really like that Hellion idea, actually. Turn him into Hellbats or something. And he's got a couple. Actually, he's got 2 in this army right now. Because you're right, Cats, that's where the upgrades are. Like, that's what is actually pretty useful. Here's the Marines. They're going to stim on top of battle cruisers.
Oh my god, these battle cruisers. I mean, these battle cruisers are what's going to give him infinite value through Yamato, potentially, to try to kill the tanks and whatnot. So he has to be extremely cautious with those. And without gas, I mean, he's really going to struggle to repair them. So it's a wild game because Coffee now has less, sure, but he has kind of the positional advantage that XY has been enjoying for the majority of this game, in that he has tanks and his opponent does not. So, oh my god, yeah, you just cannot get close to those tanks. Luckily for XY, he has like basically unlimited vision, so theoretically he shouldn't get caught off guard and walk into a tank line, but you know, just a couple of shellings of those tanks and it will be lights out. I like Coffee's position better, yeah, even though he's on paper seems behind.
Yeah, so it's funny, we look at this and resources lost very much in favor of XY. You look at the vault count, 5,000 in favor of XY. But he's actually lost a little bit more gas than Coffee has, and really that is the big difference. Now, we're starting to get to the point, Cast, where we have to start thinking about where there's money to mine. Okay, there are 2 mineral patches on the right side, like 600, 900 minerals. There's the mineral wall right here. There's the north side base that's gonna mine out.
Mineral wall.
You know what?
25 minerals.
You gotta find money where you can, Cats. Like, it's something, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of mineral patches left here. The gold base, yeah, it's done now. Can XY run through the middle of the map here? There's a soft underbelly to Coffee, and that's what he's gonna go for right now. That's a lot of orbitals he can kill.
But to what avail? I mean, are those even important? Just for vision at this point.
I would argue that vision, when you're talking about playing this late game, when you're dealing with tanks and other things, I would argue that vision is actually really important in this. Like, if you can deny the scans of your opponent, you can set up surrounds, you can slow down how quickly the tanks are able to pick up and shoot, or pick up targets and shoot them down. So I would argue that's actually a pretty important thing. But
I would argue that if you have 6 other orbitals for
fair.
vision, you're probably gonna be fine.
it's a start, okay, cats. You know, it's something.
Yeah, because it's 6 orbitals that are not dropping mules either, right? They're just to scan. So so I think he'll be okay. Look, that's frivolous scanning right there.
Just a little bit is now this army on the north side gonna deny this last bit of mining, and I just love the fact Coffee needs to get rid of this refinery. Yeah, it's 18 gas, whatever. That's giving vision for these just continuous mule hammer grand larceny that's coming out of Coffee. He's just dropping 3-4 mules at a time, and even though technically Coffee has, or XY has had this base for quite a bit in this game, Coffee's gotten a lot out of it. Coffee is mined, and he's dropping scan. Well, actually, excuse me, that's XY scans, I think. But every mineral that he can take out of this is so significant. But I think we are. Is that so? Okay, let's see. This base, it's got.
Okay, this is weird. I really don't know how this game ends. Like, I feel like positionally, the players have to make a mistake in the sense that, okay, I like this, I guess. There's still like 1,000 minerals to be mined from that base, so just protecting it sounds good here. At this point, I think that you can mostly just float all your CCs to hide them, like somewhere near your army, and then just don't care about most of anything else. Like, you don't really need that many production structures. If you save a couple, you're good for the rest of the game. So let's see, Coffee is trying to initiate something here. I think you just give up ground if you're XY, you get caught off guard, maybe go counterattack or something.
I think Coffee's got a base, or I think XY's got a base trade this. His army, we look at it, 31 Vikings, a couple battle cruisers, Marines, and Hellbats. Marines are not, you mentioned this, are not nearly as good as the Marines of Coffee, especially when we add Armor Shredder into the mix, because Coffee, he's got 7 tanks. He's actually just lost a Raven somewhere. Not sure where that went down.
Yeah, in the middle.
Okay. So he's got 10 Ravens. He's got 7 tanks there. These are effectively going to be 0 armor Marines against only +2 tanks, but +3 Marines. These Marines of Coffee will die. You will never take a straight up fight, but you can be mobile. You can play around with his Viking lead. So we're going to have to see whether Coffee's going to be able to make that happen. Whether XY is going to be able to make that happen. Coffee's doing such a good job of it, just maintaining position on the map here. He's really not letting XY move across the map and hit that base trade.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, like 5 minutes ago, maybe I said, like, I have no idea how this game ends. And what I meant by that is not like the uncertainty of who's gonna win, but rather like, I don't know. I don't see a right thing to do for either player, basically, other than just sit back. Because if you're XY, whenever you're advancing on siege, that's the opportunity for your opponent to do something to try to kill you. And if you're if you're Coffee, and then if you're XY, then you never want to find your opponent's siege, so you should never push into them. I'm surprised that Coffee even feels confident enough to move out on the map, because that's the only way that he loses an engagement, is if he gets caught unsieged and gets, you know, a huge flank with, there's a huge flank with the Vikings or something of the sort. Oh, XY is just gonna go for the draw.
Yeah, Cats, this game ends a tie. There is no way XY can win on the ground, and there's no way that Coffee can win in the air. So 44 minutes into this game, which really has been just an incredible game, actually. XY is starting to realize he can't win this game, but he cannot lose this game. He might still try with these Marines and maybe make a miracle happen, but you're right. The flower in the corner, all the buildings in the corner here. It's the Ladder Terran Classic. Everything on the ground is dead. Congrats, XY. You haven't won the game, but there is zero world where Coffee wins this game either. There's no way you don't win the air fight. There's not enough gas on the map to win the air fight.
Correct. So yeah, that is a good assessment here from XY, a game that he had in his hands for so long, it felt like. And if he could have just remade some tanks towards the later portions, or maybe prioritized a little bit more on his battle cruisers and whatnot, that could have been the way to do it. But yeah, we're gonna watch this unfold for the next couple of minutes, unless the players are irreverent enough to just type in chat to each other and be like, hey, it's a tie.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the whole D draw question mark pop out from XY right now. It's like, he knows he can't lose and he knows he can't win. So You know, at that point, it's just identify the inevitable and go to game 2, part 2. At this point, there's really not much point in letting Coffee kill the rest of your buildings and just making that happen because the scan's happening.
Oh, there's the scan. Okay.
Yeah. So Coffee knows what's up now.
Yeah, he has to process it, right? Like at this point, it's a very important match, so you just gotta process what's going on. Be like, okay, is there really no way? You say no. Your gut feeling says no. The casters say no. The chat knows no. But he still has to, you know, ask himself a few times because it's an important game. So as he processes, the right call here, if he had already processed it, would be to just back away and stop doing damage, so that the draw timer starts. If that's the way that they're gonna go about it, if they're too polite to ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Cats, maybe there's a world. You have 11 Ravens. That's, what is that, like 20 shut? How many shutdowns does 11 Ravens have? They've maxed. It's they've like what? It's two shutdowns per Raven on max energy, or is it 3?
Let's see.
How much energy is locked down? Because with oh, never mind. Ravens, a bunch of Ravens just died. He had 11. Now he's got 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind. I was gonna say maybe there's a world like if you're gonna get three shutdowns per Raven, it's 31 Vikings to 3. You shut down 30 of the Vikings and suddenly you win the fight. You know, something absolutely nuts like that. But no way.
No chance. Yeah, so this game is done. It was a very good game, very exciting game, cool start to it, very good showing from XY, and it will suck if he loses the series from here, to be honest. But yeah, this one's over. Just gotta scan one more time just to make sure.
Are you still there? You sure you're still there? You don't want to come out and like let me kill all your buildings? You sure you're okay in this corner? But no, I think you're right, Cats. XY, if he had teleported his battle cruisers as they popped on top of the army when we had the fight right here, he wins the game. Absolutely, he wins the game. He snowballs it. The game's over. So that's gonna hurt. Another scan. Coffee still verifying that in fact these structures are still in the corner.
This was, I think, the 3rd time that he's processing it. I said, like, you know, check it a few times like that. That's what most sensible players would do. And right now you can't lose, so this is what you were talking about. Like, if you can't lose, you might as well try to do something. The Vikings are going to try to do something and try to bait the army into his Marines. Not going to work out.
Look,
all right, let's try something else.
Cats, what if I build missile turrets?
Bingo!
Is that what draw means? Is draw?
I'm gonna assume that's draw. I like it.
That's my new. So apparently, when I'm losing games on ladder now, I just get to type Pingle instead of draw. There we go. Okay, game 2, part 2.
Okay. It's a Pingle, baby.
It's a Pingle. I love that.
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
What a series, like, what a game. That was a lot of fun. So Cats, it's gonna be Alcyone again. It's gonna be map 2, part 2. If you're Coffee, if you're XY, who breaks? Who goes for the all-in this game in the game 2, part 2?
Must anyone? I'm not sure. I have no idea. I think that I think that I like the approach that XY has had to both games, but he also had fantastic starts to both games so far to put himself in that position. So we'll see if he can replicate that, because I doubt Coffee is gonna fly his medevac in the same way that he did this game, for example, towards the start of the map where his opponent read him like a book. Right, and so a lot of things that I think, a lot of the preparation for XY, who seems to be like the better prepared player, has already been shown. So, you know, the longer the series goes, the more I favor Coffee, I think, who has been on recovery and doing good.
Yeah, this was very much a setup where I know we talked about it as we were waiting for the second lobby, or our third game, but second. It's confusing. It's fine. As we're waiting for that lobby, I know we talked about it a lot, but XY had very many opportunities where he could have won the game. But as often happens, actually, when you go late game and you go this very heavy Sky Terran style, eventually the map mine's out of gas and you cannot replace it anymore. Your opponent goes Marines, and then if you're not ready for that, if you think you're just going to go mass Viking until the end of the game and you win the air battle, it's fine. 30 Marines with 3-3. They absolutely go and they shred the Vikings. You cannot take the fight. It gets awkward. And I think that if you want to go back and look at it, Cats, I think the big deal, the biggest deal of this game, when we talk about how this game ended, is the fact that Coffee just kept dropping mules on that last mining base of XY. Yeah, he traded worse until all the Marines died at the very end. Yeah, he traded worse, but he took so much money from XY that late game Marines transition, whatever you look for, it wasn't as powerful as it could be. And the gas as well that Coffee stole. That's the difference between Coffee winning and losing that, or losing and tying that game, I guess.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think he should have also kind of like left some money or some gas aside, like make one less Viking and just make sure that you can repair your battle cruisers and whatnot. So there wasn't the best planning and just forward planning in general for XY there. Like I think he could have done a lot better. And yeah, it's definitely a little bit unfortunate. I'm also surprised that we saw, like him dominating the air through and through the entire game, and never once did we see a single Liberator to try to capitalize on that, for example. Instead, we saw it from Coffee while losing the air battles.
Yeah, I don't know. That was interesting as well. I mean, you're right. That very much did feel like something that would be useful. Maybe get 5 less Vikings and have 5 Liberators instead. Like that's a big power spike. But I guess the logic is, well, why build Liberators when I have battle cruisers? I don't know. I do know that we have game 2, part 2 after our Pingle. We're moving on to it. It's Alcyone once again. We're going to see just how quick this second game ends, or maybe we get another 45-minute one. Game 2. And at the bottom left in this second game for the second time, looking to put it down 2-0 for Invictus Gaming. XY.
And in the top right-hand side, it's your boy, Coffee. Yeah, so Coffee also had the capacity to go into battle cruisers earlier, and he was set up earlier than XY actually, and he kind of like didn't go for it for some reason. But he added Liberator, so clearly, that I don't think that logic holds up. I think they're kind of like different units where the battle cruiser is really nice, like for mobility and for harassing and stuff like that. And Yamato can give you like a lot of value down the line, whereas Liberators are more of like siege breakers, right? So while XY had that lead on the air and still had tanks, I feel like breaking the siege of his opponent, who happened to have a lot more tanks and less Vikings, would have been great, and that's where Liberators excel.
Yeah, certainly. But Cats, as we get into this game too, we do have to ask the question: how do you recover from that game if you're XY? I think Coffee, despite that being a draw, is going to be very happy with that game, considering how the first 30 or so minutes went. But XY, I mean, again, that was 35 minutes of winning a game and 5 minutes of sitting in a corner realizing that you can't win the game anymore, but I guess you're going to be okay, but you wish you hadn't lost it. How do you mentally recover from that?
I'm not sure. I mean, he had a lot of time to process. Luckily, during the last game, it feels like, because at that point at which I was like, I don't know how this game ends. Like, I think both players probably had an inkling of like, I can't attack and you can't attack type thing, right? And they tried to bite for that base in the top left-hand side and whatnot, but for the most part, they didn't venture much into each other's territory. They were posturing a lot, but not really trying to end the game. So I feel like he's had enough time to process here. I'm not sure why it's on the tower instead of in the completely broken position.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm like, yeah, Cats, we saw XY abuse that in the middle of the map, and it was great. But now Coffee, he's the one. Not quite abusing the broken line of sight blockers quite as much here. But the question is, how often do we get confused? We're now on Alcyone again, but spawns have swapped. Coffee on the north side, XY on the south side. And does that change the way they want to play the game? I mean, the answer is no, but it's a question. Yeah. I can ask it if I want.
Oop. Nice grenades there preemptively. However, you can walk into those line of sight blockers and then attack from there because they're not being perfectly blocked. Have a Cyclone join the fray here, and pretty much everything progressing as it normally does. A tank already on the way for XY, so bypassing that second cyclone yet again, getting a medevac as well to try to apply some pressure potentially. And on the other side, very fast interference matrix as well as a Raven for Coffee.
Yeah, this is very different from XY in game 2 part 2 in our third game of this series, because XY, he's been the one playing defensively this entire time, sitting there and defending against the drops, whatever they are. But now Reaper is into the natural. They're not going to get much done. Marines, Cyclones, they kill them all out. Oh, yeah, there we go. It goes down. But for the first time, we're seeing pressure come on from our blue Terran player. It's a tank drop, 4 Marines, a tank in there. And he's going to look to siege up behind the mineral line, get a lot of damage done early. And the question now is whether Coffee's going to be prepared for it. He's got the Reaper on the map, but he's not going to see this. It just skirts right by the vision. So
yeah, it's just one medevac. It's going to get spotted as well by the supply depots, which Coffee has been doing a very good job of. So I think he should be able to reposition. It's an issue of how much damage it's gonna do, but he's moving out with his army. So maybe there's actually an opening here. Coffee now caught off guard as he moves towards the middle of the map. That means the army is gonna be much more delayed, and this is a lot more mining time. It's effectively the mining time that it takes for your army to walk back to where you were moving it. So the timing hits perfectly for XY here. And,
we get that as well.
He'll get pushed back, but yeah, really nice.
Yeah, I wish we'd seen XY go and kind of boost into the mineral line, or just on the side and really start to get some damage done. But he didn't know his opponent was on the map here. He just knew that once he got scouted, he had to drop, he had to do something. And yeah, he didn't get a lot of SCVs, but you're right, Cats. Mining time is a significant thing. But Coffee's now the one that wants to get on the map here. He's got Ravens, he's got tanks, he's got interference matrix, and he's gonna he's gonna get scattered out for now. XY's third base is on location. He's only got 1 Raven, but he's got a pretty significant tank count here. Is this something that Coffee can break?
We'll see. It comes down to the interference matrices and whether those tanks are shut down right away. I mean, the capacity is there for Coffee, but the tanks can't afford to shell. Coffee feels confident enough seeing this setup. There is 4 tanks, however. The Ravens are going to look for a good angle, and XY protecting his tanks with the Marines in front, but as he retreats, Coffee might have just found an opportunity here, but unfortunately his tanks were sieged, so he's not too quick to it. Now sieging in range of the other tanks, so gonna need interference matrices on both ends. Marines are gonna stem forward here on the side of Coffee, who will get pushed back, and this was not a success.
Oh, this was easy for XY. Coffee just dancing around, not sure whether he needs to drop the interference matrix, not sure when to commit, because you talked about it, you brushed on it. The tank count here from XY was so high that even if all the shutdowns, even if all the lockdowns had gone out, there would still be tanks firing. There would still be that defensive high ground that XY was going to be able to hold on to. So he decided to commit a little less, commit maybe 1 interference matrix, drop auto turrets, and just try to win the fight off DPS. And it just didn't happen. Straight up, Coffee could not break it. And now XY's got his third base on location so much faster than Coffee did. What? Okay, no, that's a Reaper in the main base. It's not going to be much of anything. There we go. It gets 1 SCV, it dies. And now XY, he's for the third game in a row, by 7 minutes, he's bought himself a pretty nice lead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a window there where Coffee could have gotten a shutdown on all 4 tanks, and that would have been great. The problem is that he had just sieged. So in order to get that shutdown and use it effectively, because it's timed, obviously, you want to be on siege and you want to use that time to get in position with your own tanks and start killing stuff. But because he was sieged, he had to do so much, and this is not going to be it, my friend. I mean, the Liberator is really, really nice, but is that going to be enough? Apparently not, as the tanks push on forward and siege to deal with the Marines. Vikings are going to land, however, on the attacks of XY, and that is really, really nice for Coffee, who now finally takes a pretty good engagement here. He's still lagging behind by a little bit on the other side as well. There is counter aggression of 8 Marines dropping into his mineral line, so that's really nice for XY. If he can find this damage, that'll be huge. The SCVs are pulled off the line. The CC, however, goes down on this side, and this game is turning into full chaos.
Yeah, the thing we had to point out here, this is a 2-star pot all-in coming out of Coffee. This is the special build. This is the South American Terran build, or the Americas Terran build, where you go, in this case, there's a third base behind it. Coffee did get that, but you just get so many Vikings that if your opponent's not ready, you win the one fight in the air, you sit down, you transform there, you kill all the tanks, you win the game. That's the goal. And certainly, Coffee's accomplished so much out of this push. He's he's killed the third base of XY, but XY, he's up 20 workers. He still has that. And now onto the other side here, he knocks the Liberator down. It seems like he might just try to win on the ground here. Yes, this is 13 Vikings in the air. That's a lot, but it's still 5 tanks. There are no Liberators. XY, if he stims on top, he can still make this happen. Vikings landing here as well. He's got this slim timing. Is this going to be enough? Can Coffee break this? Can Coffee find the damage that he wants? And in fact, the army's in the middle of the map. These tanks will just die. There's nothing. It's only Vikings in the sky now. And Vikings, we saw last game, Vikings don't beat Marines.
Yeah, very responsible scan as well in order to chase up that cliff. The tanks, however, are not going to fare too well against the Vikings since the Marines that want to be involved there and SCVs have to be pulled. Brilliant decision, very prompt as well from Coffee. Will actually drive XY back for now. However, in this process, he has lost enough SCVs to be half the count of his opponent, more or less. So that's pretty awful, and losing more. 22 have gone down in recent history. And XY can now retreat to the safety of his third if he wants. He doesn't really need to end the game right now, but he might just be able to.
I think at this point, the damage is even losing the third base. Well, he's rebuilt his now. It's going to be fine now. The Vikings are again going to land and more tanks will explode. So maybe that push XY was not what you were looking for. Regardless, his economy, you talked about it, Cats. It's so much better than Coffee's. Coffee's mining literally 44 gas a minute. He's going to rebuild it now or resaturate right now. He is mining briefly so little gas that as you are committing here to this mass Raven play or this mass Viking play, you can't afford it. So more SCVs will fall. I can't believe in this game where Coffee has this many Vikings that the Viking harass is finding value, but XY stims down the ramp. Coffee makes one cutback happen, but not two. XY and an incredible upset. He goes up 2-0 in the Swiss stage. My goodness.